Hello, today I'm making Lavender Butterfly Fairy Costumes for two sets of twins that are going as a kaleidoscope of butterflies for Halloween this year. I made two in size 5 and two in size 2T toddler. This is the first of the size 5s I've created. It's the main part of the costume with a super full skirt that we wanted to make sure was very princess-like. To create the fullness, I used 3 layers of tulle. The bottom is a light gold shimmer material. The middle layer is a medium tone pink, and the top layer is a lavender light orchid color. I used an 8-inch bodice for the top. For the smaller ones, I used a 7-inch bodice. I bought it pre-made and already lined. I suggest getting them lined. You can make these yourself if you buy the elastic crochet material and have a machine at home. I cut 150 strips of tulle for the skirt because it's 50 holes around each row. The tulle came 6 inches wide and I wanted a 20-inch skirt length, so multiply that by 2 for 40 and add on 2 more inches so you can knot it onto the bodice for a total of 42 inches. Make sure you have a measuring tape to get the same lengths for all the pieces and a good pair of fabric scissors. You also want a crochet hook, like this one I found in my box of supplies. It's a 6mm or the letter J for size. It's perfect for this project and makes pulling the tulle through the holes much more simple. Moving on to demonstrate the first row of tulle that I'm using, which is the light gold shimmer. Take note, definitely don't buy the glitter tulle because it'll make a huge mess in your house. The shimmer doesn't release little particles like the glitter version does. You want to find that first row of holes where the crochet material meets the lining, and if you've made your own or purchased an online bodice, just find the first row of holes at the bottom. All 50 should line up well. If and when you sew the bodice together, make sure that the holes go straight across the back seam so that the skirt is level. I go hole by hole, one right next to the other, knotting the fabric onto the loop above it. I use the same color for every hole, and I don't alternate the colors in any of these rows. As you can see here, I do have a few more to go. I want to pause and show how I'm going to do the middle and the top layers. The pink will go directly above the gold, starting in this hole left of the seam. Then the lavender will go directly above the pink. Each piece goes around a loop, essentially creating a column of the 3 colors, and this will take up an inch or 2 at the bottom of the bodice. Alright, so now I'm going to demonstrate how to do this pink row directly above the light gold row of tulle that I've already started. And while I haven't quite finished it yet on the side here, I'm actually going to finish that before I finish all the other rows, but I just wanted to demonstrate with the pink next. So you can almost use the knots of the gold below the row that you're working on now to kind of guide you along. Your pink knot will be right above the gold knot. So I'm working on the third one over, working in my clockwise fashion that I always do. Go right through the first hole and come out through the one straight above that. And this is right above the third gold knot to the left here. You found the center of your fabric by folding in half and making a loop. You hook it on your hook and you hold it fairly tight so it stays on. I found that if you turn the hook towards the back away from you and you pull it straight through, it won't catch that lavender bodice fabric as it comes through. It is possible, but just keep the tails kind of pointing straight up. Make a small loop. You don't have to make it huge because you're going to pull it back tight anyways, so you don't want a gigantic loop. Pull the 2 tails through simultaneously, and I found if you hold it at the base, hold a bit of the bodice fabric and the sides of the tulle there, and you pull the 2 tails together at the same time, they should come through fairly evenly. You can always pull one and pull the other, kind of adjust it, but you want them to be even. Don't pull this fabric too tight, you'll rip something. And one last note on it, the pink tulle was a different brand than my gold tulle, and I found that the pink being more stretchy was a little harder to work with, and the gold was a little easier to work with. But overall, it's a really simple project. All right, skipping ahead to the lavender row now. Grab a piece of pre-cut lavender, your 6-inch wide strip by 42 inches. Place it end to end. Then go ahead and find the center point, your loop there, that you want to put on your hook. And we're going to be working in the 3rd row this time. Just explaining again that I would, of course, finish the gold row first, finish the pink row next, and then I would be working on the lavender row, but I'm just trying to speed up the process to show it. Anyhow, I've started with my first one, so we're going to the second one over in the 3rd row from that seam in the back. Go ahead and grab the hole, put your hook through it, Want to attach your loop. Hold it moderately tight again, just so it doesn't slip off while you're going through. Turn your hook away from you or towards the back. Pull it through with a small loop on the other side. And like I said, if you keep the tails pointed up, it just worked better for me. It was way more efficient. I could work a lot faster. Pull them through as straight as you can. They're not so wrinkled on the other side either. And then you hold it towards the base and pull it nice and tight. Not too tight once again. I have to adjust it just a little bit, make sure that they're even. But now you can see that we have the top row will be the lavender, the second row will be that medium tone pink, and the bottom row is the light gold shimmer. Continue all 3 rows around in a similar fashion, and you will end up with a product like you saw at the beginning of the video, a nice, full, fluffy, princess-like skirt. You can see the entire row of lavender, followed by the pink, and of course, the gold beneath that. When the children walk, this gold and pink will peekaboo through the lavender layer, and it also gives it a really cool ombre effect. All right, so I'm excited to get on to the next part of this costume. I'm making the light gold holographic sequin butterfly patch or applique, whatever you prefer to call it, for the front of the bodice for the size 5 costumes. These are fairly large. Let me show you in my hands here. They measure about 7.5 inches wide. I have those measurements coming up in just a second. And they're super sparkly. They catch the light and it looks really good. So I went on the internet and I found some free templates of butterflies, and there's about 1,000 to choose from. I just chose one that looks moderately similar to the wings I've already purchased to go with the costume. And I want to make sure it was large enough. So this one is 7.5 inches wide by 6 inches tall for my size 5 girls. And I did hold that up to their bodice to make sure that was about the correct size. And then I just traced it and cut it out on paper. The next thing I had to do is I had to make sure I had some light gold holographic sequins. These are 6mm by 80 yards. And 80 yards is plenty to make at least 4 large butterfly sequin patches, and then even have some left over to do other various parts of the costumes to kind of tie it all together, and I'll show you that part later. I also purchased some Beacon Fabric Tech glue, and this stuff is excellent for this project. It dries just fast enough so that you can keep working it and still manipulate the rows and make sure they're all nice and straight and overlapping how you want them to be. But it doesn't dry as fast as super glue, nor as slow as something like Elmer's. Make sure you also have fabric scissors. And last but not least, from a project from about, 5 years ago, I found some purple lavender felt lying around the house. I had 2 sheets of it. 1 sheet would give you 2 butterflies. I needed the 2 sheets for the 4 butterflies. So it was a perfect amount of felt. And this felt will be your backer for all the sequins that you're going to be working on it with the glue. So to show you how to do this, I've already started this one. This is my finished product, and we're making a second one just like it. So I start at the center of the body here at the top, and I work my way back and forth using a continuous strand of sequins, coming in far enough so I can cover it later so there's no straggly edges. And I work on the angle of the wing. There was the option of going horizontal, but I chose to accent the wings. And I also did it on the opposite side, working in the angle as well, all the way down to the tail. And then I go back and I apply in a clockwise fashion this border all the way around. And then last but not least, I do the center part. This will cover up all of our scraggly edges, and then you should not see any of the lavender felt peeking through, but if you did, it's the same color, so it wouldn't really matter anyways. It is purple on the back, and it should be nice and soft against the body as well, and it gives off some really good sparkle. So I just want to show how this is done. Let's start with the second one here. I'm going to start on the other side. I turned the butterfly to do this. I just found it was the most easy and efficient way to work with it. Give yourself enough slack with the string of sequins so you can continue to use them in one long line that's being zigzagged back and forth. Pull out your Fabric Tech glue. I left it uncovered. It doesn't dry so fast that the tip closes, though it gets a little thick on you. We're going to make one long line of glue from as far in the center as you can get, all the way out to the tip of the wing. You follow the angle of the wing. You don't want to go so close to the edge, though, that you won't be able to come back and do a border around the outside of it. So leave yourself a little bit of felt showing, just so you can do that with some glue later on. I'll just show up close here. I tend to use a little bit more glue than maybe you would think to, but figuring it's kids and it could be rough on the costume and want to play with it, I just want it to really stick. So take your string of sequins. You'll have a little tail at the center here. You can cut that off later once the glue is dry. Press your sequins down. The threads on the back of the sequins now will start sticking pretty quickly. And you can kind of finesse them and move them around a bit so that it matches the angle of the wing, leaving yourself just enough space for the border later. You're going to go all the way out to the tip. Figure out which one of those sequins you want to stay on and be the pivot point for your next row. You're going to turn the butterfly to work with it again. We're going to pull out the glue. We're going to do a line of glue directly below these sequins, not that far away actually, because that allows you to place the next row of sequins where there's a slight overlap. And I like that, I prefer that, so that there isn't much of the lavender felt showing. Do a fairly thick row of glue again. Hold your pivot point sequin down out at the tip. And then there's just a little bit of manipulating the sequins here so that they'll overlap, especially right where that pivot point is. Not that big of a deal though. You can just press them into the glue. It's going to dry fairly quickly, like I said. Move them around a little bit so that they're all in that same angle. These rows will be visible, as you can see on the other side. The rows are visible, depending on how the light's hitting them. And we're going to do the same thing on the inside towards the center of the butterfly. We're going to work on this angle all the way down to the tail here. That's going to be the end point. There will be a moment where I'm going to cut the sequins because they're going to come off of the wing. I'll show that in a second. And then we're going to do that border all the way around the edge and then do the center to give it a nice polished finished look. This is the point I get to where I need to cut my single strand of sequins I've been working with. I'm not going to be able to come back on myself and have it stay on the wing. So I'm going to clip it right here at the edge. And I'm going to start again, going in the same direction I would have gone in the first place. Now these are already glued down and they're sticking fairly well. So if you snip it, whatever sequins fall off are probably ones that just didn't have any glue anyways. Not a big deal. That's going to be covered up by border later. You're going to have a new tail here to start with. Makes life easier if you keep that little bit of tail there to hold on to. So just following the same direction for the pattern. I'm going to start on the outside this time and work my way in. Moving on to the final part. I have finished both wings, top to bottom. They're glued on and sticking really well. I'm going to grab my string of sequins. I have a little tail I can hold on to that makes life easier. I like to start at the center once again and work in the same direction, a clockwise fashion. I'm going to use glue along that felt edge. It's okay if it gets on the sequins a little bit too, because you're going to cover up a few of them as you go. I like to work section by section. So I'm going to go up to the tip of the wing, then I'm going to go to the next section, and then to the next. And I'm also turning the butterfly to work with it as I do it, because it just seems to move along a little quicker that way. Here are my 4 finished butterfly patches. I had the girls put on the costumes and hold up the butterflies, and they're super excited because they're so cute. My next problem is how am I going to attach this though? Well, I came up with a solution. I decided I would take these very non-stretchy sequin patches and not apply them to the very stretchy material of the bodice. Instead, I would turn them into ribbon belts, and I already had a spool of lavender ribbon lying around. And here you can see I have my 2 size 5 butterflies and my 2 size 2 tees. The smaller ones ended up being 6 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall. The larger ones, of course, were 7.5 inches wide by 6 inches tall. And I've got my needle and my thread. And I'm using the fabric tack glue once again for this part of the project. I've taken my ribbon and put it just under where the wings meet, and then glued it down going out in either direction. This is what it looks like from the front. The wings are a little wide and top heavy, so I just decided to bring the ribbon up just a hair from the center point. I tie these around the girls' waists actually slightly higher on the rib cage, and they don't seem to slide up or down. And I'm just going to throw in one extra stitch on either wing just to make sure that they don't peel off in case they're running around and having fun in them. I'm on one of the final steps of this costume. It's time to add some straps. This is the Tutu costume. I'm adding straps starting from the back seam. I'm counting 15 holes around to the front in either direction. I've already done one here. I used one long piece of tulle and I've knotted it exactly as we did the entire skirt, but just in the opposite direction. And then I've put my hook now in the 15th hole around to the front from that back seam again. And this is for the size 2T. I have also already done a size 5. Here it is laying on its front side. Its back side is up towards us. I've already done the 2 straps. After putting it on the child, I decided it needed to go about 20 holes from that back seam around to the front for each strap. The 2 pieces of tulle that we've pulled through, they go over the shoulder and they lay very flat on top of one another. And then they can split apart at the very back. So I counted over 4 holes from the back seam in either direction to put the first piece of tulle, and 6 holes over from the seam for the second piece of tulle, and I've tied them in between. I couldn't tie them in the center because I found it interfered with the wings when we went to put them on. Here's the final reveal of the Lavender Butterfly Fairy Costume. I've now added the accessories of the wand and the crown. I'm going to start at the bottom and just kind of walk through the whole costume now. You have your 3 layers of tulle, the gold, the pink, and the lavender. It might be a good idea to add a half slip underneath, depending on where you live, if you live in a cold climate. There's the gold sequin patch that we've turned into a belt, and I tied it really loosely for now in the back. You have your 2 straps knotted in the front and tied in a bow in the back, knot in the center, giving way for these beautiful wings. The wand I purchased very cheap off the internet. It was already purple. I just took holographic sequins and lined the wings using fabric tack glue, and that gem was in the center already too. Super simple. And the crown, last but not least, because every girl needs a crown, we have the stretchy gold headband that had this paper-backed type crown just slipped onto it. All I did was purchase the 3D butterfly from a local craft shop, and I added it on, and it seemed like it gave just the right effect overall to kind of tie the whole costume together. I really quickly want to show the back of these wings, depending on what wings you buy. It might be a good idea for a polished look to add some flowers right at the center of the wings. Lucky for me, my life was made easier when whatever brand made these wings, they already added these flowers on, and it was a color that went right with our color scheme. So it was perfect. I didn't need to touch it. I didn't do anything with it. That's how they came. I know the girls are super excited. I can't wait for them to wear them. I know they're dying to go out trick-or-treating, and soon I'll post some pictures of all 4 of them wearing it. It's going to make quite the effect to see all 4 of these costumes walking down the street trick-or-treating. And thanks for watching.